Hey guys, it's Devest. So today I had an idea for a new video where I would look at the 5 most popular real-world firearms and explain why they suck, along with an honorable mention to bring it up to 6. So in case you didn't know, I am a German gunsmith who used to work for various manufacturers designing firearms for domestic government use and export. In addition to my insider knowledge of the physics and engineering behind firearms, I also do a lot of research about their history. Starting off at number 6 with the Remington 870, which is really more like generic pump-action tube-fed 12-gauge shotguns in general. It's just that the Remington 870 is the most produced shotgun model of all time, so it appears most often. Anyways, I have an entire video explaining why shotguns suck as weapons of war. They're great for hunting small animals, and they have some niches in the military as tools, such as for door breaching, but they don't work as weapons of war because you're distributing the energy of a high-powered rifle over 9 projectiles, which each individually have the kinetic energy of a low-powered pistol with worse ballistics and accuracy. Video games give people an unrealistic idea of the efficacy of a shotgun because instead of modeling shotguns with real-world ballistic performance, they will make each individual pellet hit like a rifle round. Also, within the context of a video game where you're typically using select fire or fully automatic weapons, one squeeze of the trigger will let you put more bullets downrange over the same period of time as someone with a pump action. Slugs, on the other hand, are a meme. They're functionally inferior to using rifles and exist primarily for hunting when rifles are restricted. Beyond the firepower, the ergonomics of a 12-gauge is inferior. Using tube magazines means that shotguns are slower to load than service rifles from the First World War, except for the Liebel. While a 5-round 12-gauge detachable box magazine is taller than a 30-rounder for a 5.56er. At number 5, we have the Desert Eagle. You're probably already aware of its low capacity and wrist-shattering recoil, but the massive amounts of kinetic energy it delivers is actually pretty mediocre within the context of killing your fellow man. It's great for killing animals like boars because it generates a lot of trauma when it hits bones or vital organs. But 50 Action Express is largely ineffective against even basic body armor because it has a large surface area and a low-velocity projectile. I'm sure most of you are aware of the most famous interaction with the Desert Eagle, which is its ability to one-shot headshot a helmeted enemy in Counter-Strike at any range. But in reality, it is one of the only pistols in that game that wouldn't be able to defeat the body armor available in 1999, along with the 45 USPS. While 9mm like the Glock, Tech 9, and dual Berettas would work fine. Even against unarmored opponents, the functional difference in trauma isn't going to be noticed by most humans. If you hit someone with a 50 caliber Deagle and don't hit a vital organ, then you're going to leave a hole twice the size of a 9mm in their body, so they'll bleed to death slightly faster than if you hit them with a 9mm. But the primary killing potential of a pistol is by penetrating their body and hitting a vital organ. So if you have a 9mm with 15 or more rounds loaded in the magazine, then you can cover a larger area of someone's body with potentially lethal holes than if you unloaded the magazine from a Deagle into them, while also being much more ergonomic than a Desert Eagle. Finally, if a 9mm handgun isn't big enough for you, the Heckler & Koch MP7 is a big, bulky pistol that you can carry on your hip that does defeat body armor while retaining the killing power of higher caliber handguns and low recoil. The Heckler & Koch MP5 is number 4 on our list and the most popular submachine gun. I'm not sure how accurate the AI is because I would think the P90 or the Uzi would be more popular, but regardless. So the MP5 was designed to fulfill a very specific niche, which does actually occur in some video game balance, where it's designed to function as a cheaper, less powerful substitution for a real rifle, despite its reputation in the States due to restrictions on arms imports. Heckler & Koch makes their business around cheap firearms, so the MP5 fit a good niche for them. Other submachine guns from the 60s relied on straight blowback operation, which creates a lot of felt recoil and adds weight to the whole system due to relying on a heavy bolt that shifts around to function. While the MP5 is a G3 rifle scaled down to 9mm with a roller delayed blowback system, which is much more efficient on weight and felt recoil, while still being relatively cheap. So the MP5 is a high flyer when it comes to submachine gun designs. A few designs have performance advantages when it comes to weight and recoil. But none also combine that with the mechanical simplicity and cheapness of the MP5, hence why it's so popular. That being said, within the context of a weapon designed for killing people, the MP5 and all pistol-caliber submachine guns are outclassed by assault rifles. Even during the 60s, you had Colt AR-15 submachine gun, which is a shortened M16 that delivers twice the kinetic energy onto its target as a 9mm with a higher velocity, flatter shooting bullet, while being a similar size and weight. The MP5 also loses one of the advantages you get from pistol-caliber submachine guns, which is a grip-loaded magazine like the Uzi. So you don't even get the advantage of saving that little bit of space. On the other hand, pistol ammunition is cheaper than assault rifle ammunition, and the reduced velocity and propellant charge means less heat from friction and combusting gases, which all works towards making it cheaper to feed and maintain a pistol-caliber submachine gun than an intermediate caliber. So in this instance, Counter-Strike is realistic because the MP5 is a cheap but mediocre automatic weapon, while the M4A4, which is based on the successor to the AR-15 submachine gun, the Mark 18, is more expensive but vastly more capable. But in games where you don't have to factor in economics, the submachine guns are given unrealistic bonuses like higher movement speed or aim-down sight speed. Hey, wait, didn't I already discuss all of this in my video about submachine guns and shotguns? At number 3, we have the Model 1911 .45 caliber automatic pistol. This is, of course, going to appear in every World War II shooter with the United States in it, which is most of them. But it also worms its way into much later conflicts due to its niche appearances. Oftentimes, they will depict it as doing more damage than contemporary 9mm pistols in exchange for a lower magazine capacity, when in reality, it offers the lower capacity while doing less damage. Unlike 50 caliber Action Express 45 has about the same kinetic energy behind it as a 9mm pistol, so against flesh and blood people the 45 caliber has less effective stopping power because it might not even have the capacity to penetrate deep enough into someone's flesh in order to hit a vital organ, even if your shot placement is good. 45 caliber was designed in response to faulty testing by the United States government, where they shot live cattle with commercial handguns to see how quickly they would get incapacitated from blood loss after getting shot to determine which pistol was the most effective. Even according to their own testing, using a 30 caliber Luger pistol was the most effective, because the Luger had the best penetration characteristics with its higher velocity, smaller diameter projectile. They kept on instantly killing every steer they shot because it would hit a vital organ like the heart, which the other pistols were incapable of doing, which they then disregarded, nominally, because they couldn't time how long it would take for the animal to bleed to death if it didn't die from blood loss, and then they switched to shooting the cattle in the rump so there weren't any vital organs. So 45 has an advantage over smaller caliber pistols if you don't manage to hit a vital organ, because your target will bleed to death slightly faster, long after they've killed you, compared to if you shot them with a 9mm or 30 caliber pistol. Also, I would like to note that John Browning originally designed what became the Colt 45 to chamber a 9mm pistol cartridge of his own design, because he had a better grasp of pistol ballistics than the dorks in the army at the time. The switch from 30 and 38 caliber, that's 9mm in metric by the way in case you're confused, pistols back to 45 also gave the 1911 a unique weakness. Because of its heavier case and lower pressure than 38, the 1911 has weak extraction. Compared to contemporary handguns from the era like the Luger, Mauser C96 or Stier 1912, the 1911 is by far the most likely to jam. It's not like it's going to jam after every shot, but if you have a lot of experience behind handguns, then you're going to notice that 45s are a lot less reliable. The only niche advantage the 1911 has over 9mm is that the M1911 cartridge, which is the standard 230 grain ball load, is subsonic, which makes it easier to adapt to using a sound suppressor, like with the M3 grease gun. Since standard 9mm loads like 115 grains are supersonic, you will still have a sonic boom when you fire. In fact, silenced Sten guns from the Second World War were designed to vent gases in order to reduce the muzzle velocity of the bullet to keep it subsonic. The honorable mention, or number 2 for this list, is the M4A1 carbine. I'm glad it's just an honorable mention because now I don't have to make a bait and switch to shit talk it. Because the AR-15 design is genuinely the top tier of automatic rifle designs out there today. It's hard to see how significant improvements could be made with Firearms design over it. But I did discuss why specific variants of the AR-15 are a scam in another video. Finally, we have the AK-47 or Kalashnikov family, if you want to call it that. Supposedly the most produced rifle family of all time. It's not, by the way. The most produced rifle family is the Mauser 98, or Mauser rifles in general, depending on how nebulous you want to get, since people grouped the PKM and SIG Sturmgewehr 90 in with the AK-47 because of their similarities. I've also made a video discussing why the AR-15 is better than the AK-47, but as a quick refresher. The Soviet Union designed the AK-47 based on observations made about combat during the Second World War. In terms of functionality, it's basically on par with the Nazi Sturmgewehr 44, but the Soviets lacked the industrial capabilities to produce the AK-47 en masse until 1959. So communist-aligned infantry retained bolt-action rifles, submachine guns, and the SKS until that point, which meant the United States, which used semi-automatic rifles and the M2 carbine as their infantry weapons after the Second World War, had a huge advantage in firepower over communists, such as during the Korean War. Then by the time the AK-47 was ready for mass production, the United States introduced the AR-15, which is straight up better than the AK-47 due to using a lighter, higher velocity bullet, which was effective out to longer ranges. So since the 60s, the Soviets, Russians, and anyone else who uses the AK has been reverse engineering technology developed for the AR-15 and dropping it onto their Kalashnikov to try and improve its performance, which is proof enough of the superiority of the AR in my opinion. Also, the AK-47 is significantly less reliable than an AR-15, which a lot of other gun tubers have already discussed in length, beyond just the looser tolerances allowing filth to ingress into the working parts of the action. The Kalashnikov also only has 2 locking lugs, so you lose 50% of your locking strength if one of those fails, where the 7 locking lugs on an AR bolt means you lose 15% of your strength if a lug fails. Like I mentioned in my other video, even the things I could give credit to the Russians for with the niche advantages the AK-47 has over the AR, like being able to fire underwater, don't really amount to anything because Armalite designed the AR-18 and its derivatives fulfill all the same niches that the AR-15. So there's no reason to touch an AK-47 for anything. And even if 7.62 by 39 did have more stopping power than 5.56 like in video games, 300 Blackout also exists and does everything 7.62 does better. So there is no piece of technology with the AK-47 that has not been rendered obsolescent by something Americans have made. I think that wraps up everything I wanted to say about these guns today. There's nothing wrong with incorporating these guns into your own video games, by the way. It just depends on the context you use them in. With that being said, make sure to post a comment if you learned anything from this video or argue with me if you disagree. Until next time, this has been Divest.